Okay, Bannock County Commissioners are now in session. First item on our agenda is indigent.
Yes, Chantal Laulu with Indigent Services. The first application that I have for you is an application for cremation expenses. It's case number 20250007. It's an application for cremation expenses through Wilkes Funeral Home in the amount of $1,200. The application was submitted by the husband of the deceased. The applicant is a 38-year-old male who is applying for cremation expenses for his 34-year-old spouse. The spouse was not a veteran, is a Bannock County resident. With all of the information obtained, it does appear that they meet criteria to be eligible for assistance, and the applicant has agreed to a $25 a month repayment plan upon approval of that application. And then for case number 20250008, it's an application for cremation expenses through Wilkes Funeral Home in the amount of $1,200. The applicant is a 38-year-old female who's applying for cremation expenses for her 37-year-old brother. The brother was a Bannock County resident, was not a veteran. With the information obtained, it does appear that they meet criteria to be eligible for assistance, and the applicant has agreed to a $25 a month repayment plan upon approval of this application.
Questions?
Nope. Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve case 2025007 and 0008 as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. The Treasurer's Office. Welcome.
Good morning. We just need approval for the specials we put on the tax roll for the 2024
We
taxes.
have you introduce yourself.
Oh,
first.
sorry.
That's okay.
Katie Valentine with Treasurer's Office.
Misty Castle-Mitas, Chief Deputy Treasurer.
All right. Now let's look.
Now let's talk specials for the 2024 taxes for the cities and for the Department of Lands.
Okay. Questions?
Just, would you clarify what the specials are, please?
Sure. The city specials are anything that this, like, if business doesn't clean up the property or if they haven't paid for certain things, then the cities will add that onto their taxes to collect that money. Department of Lands is there's certain properties with trees or forests that the Department of Lands is in charge of, and they need to charge those Bannock County for that. Or not Bannock County, but the people who own the property.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the 2024 tax roll specials as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
Shanda.
Good morning, Commissioner. Shanda Crystal, Chief Procurement Officer, and I have you with me here today.
Tony Manu, Bannock County Sheriff. Alex Hamilton, Chief Deputy.
We have a couple items before the board today. The first one that I wanted to start with was requesting a signature on a contract with Superior Asphalt. As you recall, we went out to bid for asphalt repair out of the detention center, and having awarded that to Superior Asphalt for coming in with the greatest number of points, we have now received all documentation required for the ARPA funding and would like to present this before the board for signature for Superior Asphalt, not to exceed $75,000.
Questions?
Just, what category do we put this in under the ARPA stuff?
Revenue replacement.
Okay.
They started today, by the way.
Oh, well, okay. I have no further questions, Chair.
Motion?
I would move that we approve the contract with Superior Asphalt as presented.
We have a motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So how much you gonna get done? Weather's turning. It's good.
They've got it all. They had the cutter out there this morning when we left to come here, so they're getting all the critical areas done. So, kind of where our drain's sinking, you're gonna fix that, so,
Good.
yeah.
I was talking to Daniel this morning, they're supposed to start paving out here Monday. We won't open up the area till January, but if we can get some asphalt down, that'd be a lot nicer.
The second item we have before the board is a recommendation to award the tactical training remodel request for proposal. A couple things on this one. As we went out to bid for this, both of the bids we received did come back over budget. In anticipation of recommending an award today, we have discussed with Christine. So if that decision is made, then we do have some options for the board to consider to move forward with this. But in that light, as those bids were taken in and evaluated by the team, the apparent winner is Pro Builders. Upon discussion, we are confident they can do the project. And a couple different things. We would like to recommend to the board that we recommend awarding the project for the Tactical Training Center remodel to Pro Builders, Inc. For an amount not to exceed $584,936. But that being said, we will take the opportunity to go back with the engineers and the contractor, if awarded, and look if there are areas that we can tighten up, do things a little more economically, value engineer, and then have a final contract amount come back before the board that is hopefully a little closer to the original budget.
Okay, any concerns, Dan?
Great idea, value engineering.
Okay, yeah, and then you've talked, because we did come in over budget.
So when I do the ARP update, I've got some ideas. If you want to take this under advisement, and then we can review the ARPA, then you can.
What was our original budget on this?
400.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Or you can sign it and trust me.
I think that you've.
That's a good legal analysis.
You've investigated and you have a process and a plan going forward. After we review our ARPA, we can confirm that, but.
Let me rephrase. We have the contingency overage money in PIL. So that's where the overage could come from, pending how the ARPA update goes. But there was $1 million budgeted there that would cover this overage.
And I have concerns
That was a
because we have a lot of projects that are coming in over. I mean, we have a couple more down in Downey and up here at the event center but I have some great concerns and every one of them's coming in. So the $1 million doesn't seem to go that far. So honestly, I'd like to, after we have our ARPA discussion, review this after that and go further with that. But because we have so many projects that right now, I mean.
And we do have some savings from some of our projects that have been completed. So, and I think between those, I think it's a total of 36,000, nearly 37,000, $36,932 in savings from our projects that are completed. So I know it's not a lot, but it cuts that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and I can highlight on a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
Do the ARPA update.
I think that, I mean, I'm all for moving forward on this, but we have it in our ARPA discussion to talk about where we're at and stuff, and I think that should be part of this discussion also.
Okay.
So we'll hold it until after the ARPA discussion.
Which is, the next 30 minutes.
That's the next item.
So,
Okay, that one, yes. Then
Might as well wait.
stay right
Might as well
there.
wait for the next one.
We're going to talk about ARPA right now, so.
We're in the same situation with the next
With the
one.
next one also.
So might as well, let's talk ARPA then. Because the next
Well-
one is the same thing.
Exactly.
Matt, you might as well come up as well.
Scott,
Mhm.
Dan. All right, let's go ahead and talk about ARPA then right now.
Well, do you want to do, can we do the YDC building real quick? Because
Yeah.
that kind of leads into my
Okay.
discussion as well.
All right, as alluded, so we have been joined by,
Matt Olson, Bannock County Juvenile Justice.
Dan Kendall, Facilities Director.
Scott Crowther, Event Director.
and in talking about the Youth Development Center, Youth Development Center, Event Center, Office Building. There we go. Up at the Event Center. Again, as it was alluded to, we had a budget of $2 million. All of the bids that were received came in more than that. And as this evaluation team went in, there were 7 different proposals that they needed to get in and understand and review. And in doing so, we would like to recommend that the board awards the project for the Youth Development Center, Event Center Office Building to Headwaters Construction Company for $2,346,483.
$2,300,000.
What's the budget on that?
$2 million was the original approved budget.
That was $2,346,483.
83, correct.
Thank you.
And this is kind of the same situation. We'll talk about the funds. We have $350,000 basically. Have you identified these funds?
I believe I have.
Okay. So let's go ahead and have the ARPA discussion, and then we'll come back and make the motion on agreeing to this with Headwaters, or what we want to do there. Okay?
Okay. Krista Clauser, Comptroller. I provided a spreadsheet in the packet for the ARPA projects. We do have one quick ask. Tony had his deputy stations bids come in at roughly $41,000, and we only budgeted $29,000. He does have a savings of $12,000 that we could take from the wet cells and move from there to the deputy stations, and both projects would still be able to be completed. So that would be a net wash within the projects.
The money's allotted.
I went ahead and put that in your, the spreadsheet that you have in the packet, just to reflect that that does leave sufficient funds at the bottom.
Okay.
Pending that approval, I've updated spending as of September 30 because I had my ARPA report that was due last week. I got that ARPA report completed. Within that, the new obligation requirements are reflected within the system now, which means any item that is highlighted blue for the project, those are expenditure category projects. Any of those projects, I have to have contracts so that I can reflect who we are obligating the funds to. So keep that in mind as I present more information.
Okay.
Anything that is not highlighted are under revenue replacement dollars. If you look bottom line, we currently have $16,899,531 obligated in projects, which leaves $156,145 to be allocated. The other change I made on this spreadsheet for this time is I added under contract, and we have X's in those areas. I did not X the pavement because that had not been signed yet, so we can now X that one. And then pending the decision today, we potentially have 2 other projects that we could put X's in there. But that's going to be more used as a tracking document for Shanda so that she has the list of what we still need to have under contract by 12/31 if the project is not complete. I added to the back of the page the Dahlia exhibit breakout. We have multiple aspects of that building and that project just simply because it's going to be done in-house. There are portions that will be contracted out, and under status, I should have put under contract, so I need to add that, change that heading. Right now we only have estimates on a handful of the projects, other than the shell and the architect. Those costs we know, and I need to add the engineer in there. A lot of these projects, a handful of them Dan is going to do, but we're also going to go under contract. So keep in mind that part, that breaks that out. Here's where I'm going to throw a little bit of a wrench at you. I worked on this document yesterday, and I fine-tuned it today. This is my proposal.
This is the trust me document?
This is the trust document. So keeping in mind the reporting requirements that I'm going to have to do, I made a couple tweaks to the project costs. Bear with me to the end before you have any panics. The 3 items that are marked in green reflect the overage for the YDC Event Center building and for the tactical training building. What I did is I added the contract amount plus the engineering and design costs that we've already paid. So that's why the YDC building is at $2,431,000 as opposed to the $2,003,000 for the contract. And then what I did is I reduced the fair building budget with the thought that I would allocate funds in PILT to finalize the full cost of what that building's going to be. So we would do a formal allocation of the funds that will be needed to get that building done. It would just be funded in 2 different places. The benefit of that is, if you look on the second page, the items highlighted in gray are the items that we believe, through talking with Shanda and Dan, that we can have under contract to meet my reporting requirements. The other items are going to be costs that Dan is going to have to make, and those would be the costs that we would definitely want to fund out of PILT, just simply because of the lack of contract.
What are you budgeting for PILT?
We put that,
How much are you budgeting for PILT or anticipating for PILT next year?
it depends. Well, we have $1 million in there, but
We have
I
$1
would-
million in PILT?
That's what we budgeted
Yes.
this last year
Yes.
for overage,
Yeah.
basically, in
We
these
would-
projects.
so to come up with the $1.5 million that is currently in the budget for the fair exhibit building, we would need to put $486,024 and allocate directly to the exhibit building. Now, if you look at this cost breakout, it's at $1.6 million. So we might need a little bit more of that money, pending how the contracts come in. Talking to Shanda, all of the bids should be opened by the 14th. So if we do a follow-up meeting on the 21st, we can fine-tune how much we would want to allocate from PILT to complete the exhibit hall project.
Okay.
But then, that would allow us, where we have the YDC Event Center building and the tactical building, those are going to be under contract with the general contractor. Super easier reporting than trying to piecemeal the exhibit hall. Now, I need to leave at least $1,013,000 in the exhibit hall because it is an expenditure category item, and if you look at the bottom, I've got to have at least $7,055,000 in exhibit or expenditure category items. So that's where the trust me comment came in. Now, there could be a potential for overage on the YDC building of about 10%. That I anticipated we would need to use the PILT money for. But until that contract is really gone through to see what it includes, what it doesn't include, we won't know what some of those are. But Dan feels pretty strongly that we probably need to anticipate, because it's going to be a brand new facility, some overage amounts.
And I agree. And then the other part of the PILT funds and stuff like that is, just like we went down there and cleared out the buildings this last week down at Downey. A lot of that stuff should have just been thrown away. We bought some storage or renting some storage units. Stuff that's up here, we don't want to take it all up there. I mean, if it isn't in good shape, part of that $1 million is to furnish these facilities too. And we didn't include that in all of this stuff. So I don't want to just think that we have $1 million there that we can just use any way we want to do. Because I want this to look like a new facility, and I want it to to represent what we want it to be. I don't want a lot of old garbage stuck in there.
Depending on when the YDC Event Center building is going to be complete, we could potentially, I mean, unless it's going to be done by September, we will have fiscal year '26 that we could provide additional funds on that one. Exhibit hall, my understanding is that is supposed to be ready by fair.
Downey should be.
Okay. And so that one, we will need all the hard costs, which is why on the back, it includes furniture and some of those items. I did brainstorm with Dan, and like propane tanks, we might be able to rent those. The landscaping, it could potentially wait until '26. No, I need to put '26. I don't know what year I'm in, sorry. Parking lot and sidewalks could wait till '26, so I'll update those dates.
The current time frame for headwaters for the YDC building is 9.5 months.
Okay.
So depending again how that conversation, if it were to be awarded, that conversation, how quickly they're able to go. But that is their current timeline that they took.
So that furniture may not be able to wait.
So just in simple terms, we're taking money out of some of the other ARPA projects to finish these others, and then use PILT funds to finish up
The exhibit hall,
the exhibit hall.
yes.
Questions?
And the largest reason for that is we'll still make it whole, but for reporting purposes, I've got to have the contracts.
No, we're getting down to deadlines here, and I'm
My only question is, and I'm just having a mental block right now. Walk me through our PILT. I know we budgeted $1 million in PILT, but do we have some of that in reserves? Is that how we got
Yes.
to the $1 million?
Yes.
And then part of that $1 million, does that include the PILT payment for FY '25?
Look and see what I budgeted, because that could give us,
Because that's where my question was, is how much are you budgeting for PILT and or anticipating? Because that's about 600,000-ish.
so revenue-wise, I budgeted 500,
Okay.
which is less conservative
Correct.
than in the past. In '24, we got 667,000. In '23, I got 620. So we
Right, so
could,
500 is a very safe number.
and we could potentially have a little bit more money, possibly.
Okay. Well, we've talked about PILT for a bunch of different things, and so
Yeah.
I'm just trying to keep it all straight in my mind of where it's coming from and where we're talking, so, okay.
And we had so much in reserves because of the LATCF funds,
Mhm.
which I need to double check if I have enough in reserves from regular PILT money, or if we're gonna be dipping into those LATCF funds. The benefit is I have to do LATCF reporting. So if we have some bigger items that are gonna come out of it, I could start that reporting and get some of that money shown as spent on big things instead of little
Was there
things.
a time frame on the LATCF funds, or was it just reporting requirements?
Just
when you
reporting
use it?
requirements every year.
Okay.
And we haven't spent any of that.
And that was about another 600,000 in LATCF funds, wasn't
I
it?
think the total LATCF funds was $1 million. I think it was 500 over 2 years, wasn't it?
Was it 500 for our normal PILT plus the 500 for the LATCF?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was remembering was that, so.
It was 512
Okay,
in 2 different payments.
okay, all right, I'm tracking. Thank you.
So on this thing, just to make sure I understand this clearly, between ARPA money and PILT money, do we have the money to fund everything on here, even your things that say we'll need more funds?
Well, the 2 items that say that need more funds, those are the 2 that the budget did come in higher. And so in this scenario, I should have taken that off.
And just
Okay.
on that question,
Other
on
than
the,
contingency.
for the YDC building, wasn't our budget 2 million and your spreadsheet shows 1.5? Or did
Well,
I
that
miss
was the
something?
original amount approved.
Okay,
And
all
then we
right.
go to revised costs, sorry.
Okay.
I kept that.
Nope, you're fine.
Okay.
And then the other available for allocation, we are at 0 now.
In this scenario, yes.
So that's just, we've always talked about
Yeah.
that allocation where we had that.
But we were getting to the wires, so I thought we knew we needed some of those for some of these projects, so that's why I just.
Very much so. And then, like out here on Sixth Street, we put $100,000 for overage or change orders.
Yes.
And I'm sure on these other bigger projects, we're gonna have some of that too. And so we need to be aware as we're going through all this.
So this scenario, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, based on what we're talking about, if we had an overage of 10% on the YDC and an overage of another 10% on Downey, using the pill fund as we're talking about, you feel comfortable that we should be okay? And maybe have to push some of that into a following year,
Yeah,
the budget for that.
So what I just did rough numbers, 235,000 for the YDC Event Center building, 58,000 for tactical, just in case. That's 293, so you might as well round that to 300,000. And then we know the overage that we're gonna use, if you go with this plan, is 486,000 for the exhibit building. We're looking at 780,000. The only, there could be more items, because if you look at the back of this sheet, again, just using the guesstimate numbers, we're at $1.6 million. So that 486,000 actually probably needs to be another 150,000, which puts us, instead of 880, we're right there at the $1 million mark.
Yeah.
So if you're comfortable, we can move forward with these contracts, but then the exhibit numbers will come in, and I can do another ARPA update on the 21st, and hopefully we'll have more firm numbers as to where we're at with the exhibit building. Those right now are the ones we don't know. And Dan tends to be conservative, which I would appreciate in his estimates being high. Because for expenses, I'd rather estimate high. So hopefully some of those numbers will come in lower, and we won't be at those dollar amounts. But yeah, everything will be used.
So just, again, just to make sure my math is somewhat correct, we have $1 million in PILT funds sitting in the bank right now with a potential of another $500,000 coming in this year. That's what your budget?
No.
Or is
So
that
the
mil-
budget-
That million includes that
Yes.
$500,000?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So we could potentially have another 100 that we could open the budget for if we needed to, but we won't know that until June, because that payment doesn't come in until June.
And right now, we're guessing that there's a roughly 900,000 of that million that we're getting ready to commit if we accept these two projects as is.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Well, I appreciate everybody's work. And we're coming right down to the deadline, and I'd like to be right at, I feel comfortable being within $100,000, honestly. At least we're on the plus side for the 100,000 instead of the negative side, instead of pulling some of this stuff off. Any further questions, comments?
I'm good, John.
Thank you for everybody's hard work. So I think that every project that we've identified, that we still move forward with.
Okay.
So these two projects, a motion.
Everybody comfortable at the table? Okay. Mr. Chair, I would move that we award the tactical building contract to Pro Builders in an amount not to exceed $584,936. And I also propose that we award the YDC Event Center contract to Headwaters Construction in an amount not to exceed $2,346,483 and no cents.
We have two motions. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I do have the letters prepared. And again, both of those projects, those evaluation teams will get back with those awarded companies as soon as possible. And the architect, and hopefully find ways that we can do things as still with quality products, right? But see if there's a way that we can cut some costs on those, and the final dollar amount will come back before the board in the contract just as soon as possible. Both of those companies have been made aware that if their paperwork is not turned back into the county before December 4th, that we retain the right to cancel this award and move to the second best contractor. Both of, everybody that I've talked to have said that, right, they have no intention of that they would get all of their other paperwork in just as quickly as possible, but they have been able.
On a side note, are you good if I use the second document I provided you as our new tracking with all those changes made?
I am.
Yeah, the only thing I would, well, you had the revised cost, so yeah, I'm good.
And then what I'll do is, this is just what we'll work from until the 14th. And everything gets opened, and then hopefully on the 21st, we'll have more firm numbers that will.
Okay.
And then at that point, we can dedicate funds to the Fair Exhibit Building so that everyone feels comfortable that that project will go forward with the appropriate dollar amounts, since that has been a consent.
No, I appreciate it very much so. Thank you, everybody, all the work with that.
Christina, thank you.
Shanda, do you want these back? Shanda, do you want these back? These
They
letters?
can just sign it for Christine's stuff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jason just texted me, and he is headed to Chauvin to deal with a frustrated owner, so he will probably not make the executive session.
Are they down there?
No,
Frustrated
out in
voter.
Chauvin.
So we can go down there real quick.
Well, if he's not gonna make it, let's go ahead and go into executive session.
Mr. Chair, I move that we enter into executive session under Idaho Code 74-2061F. Talk to our council.
Commissioner Hauser?